It took quite a long time, but now it's finally here and we can drive it, the remarkable Audi Q6 e-tron. And with that, hey and welcome to this new video here at Car Jonas, and welcome to the first driving impression of the Audi Q6 e-tron Quattro, one of 3 variants available right at market launch. The pure rear-wheel drive at around 68,800 euros, then the Quattro version from 74,400 euros, or the S variant from approximately 93,800 euros. All with the 100 kilowatt gross battery, and you can effectively utilize 94.9 kilowatt of that overall capacity. What are we doing today? We're testing the software, we're seeing how the vehicle drives, and we're also checking how fast you can actually recharge, because Audi itself says it can peak at 270 kilowatt. It can hold this not just briefly, but for a long time, and thus wants to charge this large battery from 10 to 80% in 21 minutes. We'll look at all that together today. And if you haven't done so yet, feel free to subscribe to the channel for free. It really helps us a lot here at work and to be able to implement something like this. And then I would say, let's start with the wound up. We'll begin at the front because I have already shown you the entire amazing vehicle itself. Nonetheless, it's especially the white color that clarifies a lot. Yes, here we have the S-Line version, which means black grille inserts instead of light gray ones. And especially here, this somewhat sportier clip. You can already see this division where there's a lot of black happening down here, and then the car color always comes on top. There's a blue, red, and then shades of gray, for example. So you can choose as you like. Personally, I really like the front because this particular aspect makes it look very sporty. And this separation of these LED headlights for the daytime running lights up top and the main headlights here, which actually blend into the front, I find quite nice. And with these, you can choose from 8 different designs. That's just for fun, but it's quite nice. When the air suspension is set to the highest level, the vehicle looks really tall, but that's intentional because Audi themselves said they wanted to build an electric SUV. Not just an electric car, which was raised due to the battery. And I think they did a good job with it. And in case someone doesn't notice, the battery is highlighted in black down there just to give this technique layer, or as I call it, to highlight. But I really think the vehicle looks quite cool in white. So I wasn't really sure about the black colors because the front kind of gets lost. But the white combined with the few black elements really suits the car well. But now let's move from design to technical data. Not that you'll end up saying you like the car way too much just for its looks. In the Quattro version, you get 625 kilo according to WLTP, and that's even though the car has 285 kilo of power. So it's quite powerful. You have a PSM at the back and an ASM motor at the front, and you really benefit from this large battery. Later, a compact version around 80 kilowatts is supposed to come. That will, of course, be priced even lower. However, it's technically really quite okay and should meet our standards quite well. When you consider that the vehicle could have come out maybe 1 or 2 years ago, it would have been technically much more superior. That's all set for now. And before we forget it later while loading, the charge port evidently opens electrically, yet still very, very slowly, almost frustratingly. I had hoped that it was just prototypes damaged in the studio back then. No, that's unfortunately always the case, and closing it when you tap it here takes its time. But at least it's electric, and when you step in then, it doesn't really matter. And there's also the option of the charging port on the right or left. On the left is the CCS connector, and on the right there's an additional Type 2 adapter. We'll take a look at that later at the charging station. Now that we've reached the back, a quick note on the design. We showed it to you digitally in the studio back then, not on the actual vehicle, but the taillights now feature various animations as well, providing a more dynamic visual experience. That means you can always change the rear lights to match the front ones, and there is even one that pulses gently. The rear lights can, for example, also warn of dangers, and when you turn on your hazard lights, then small triangles are displayed, for example, or if the traffic behind approaches too quickly, all the lights flash completely. I find it a nice touch because it combines design with utility and above all safety. Now let's check out the trunk, and while it opens, I'll tell you that you can tow up to 2.4 tons with this vehicle. And here there's typically a parcel shelf, and it's still not really properly guided as expected. Honestly, I just don't get it, because we already complained about that in the Audi Q8. And having it here now, I still don't get why they couldn't have done it better. For this, you can now very conveniently lower the rear with a button, thereby significantly simplifying the loading process. One real advantage is the air suspension here. And then there's also that spacious trunk. And that's a bit of a problematic issue, in my opinion, when it comes to the vehicle. Because what initially seems like a lot of space isn't, particularly in this context. Because with 526 litres, you now have only 6 litres more than the comparable Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback model. And it's a whole 19 centimetres shorter. The Sportback variant of the Q4 even has 435 litres, so more volume than you have here. And you can actually notice that, because not only does the trunk slightly rise towards the back, so when I fold down the seats here, it creates a level or uninterrupted surface. No, it's really just not huge either, but you have a bit of space down here. For example, an energy drink fits in easily, or you can store the charging cable and maybe some groceries. There's really truly not much space. The only thing you can store there is just the parcel shelf, the roller blind. I still don't understand why there wasn't more space available, because actually the vehicle is spacious. There should actually be some space inside. On request, and I mean only on request, there's an additional storage compartment of 64 litres under the hood, almost considered a frunk under the classic hood of the vehicle, perfect for storing extra items conveniently. Audi charges quite a bit for this because at 490 euros, it's not the biggest expense, but in my opinion, one of the biggest surprises that this component here doesn't come standard in the car, and I bet that many, especially company car buyers, forget this detail, resulting in cars just coming with a cover here instead of the expected feature. Nevertheless, if you use it, you really have quite a bit of storage space. Looks pretty nice too, and 64 litres is really good. If you're saying now, that's quite different costs listed over there, don't you think? I'll show the interior in fast forward, since I've already shown it to you in detail at the world premiere. A little more on the subject of piano lacquer. Audi really has a lot going on here, whether it's down in this area or elsewhere in the vehicle's interior. Even this shutter is in piano lacquer, here inlays, and also in the door the new control unit for the lights and the mirrors and also the seats. This huge curved display here, which unfortunately consists of 2 different displays, but at least they are OLED displays, I really like. Even though I still have to say that I don't like the resolution because I think it all looks quite pixelated, as if perhaps a bit more sharpness or clarity could have been thoroughly invested there to improve the overall image quality. An addition exists regarding the driver info and also the multimedia screen. I mentioned that it doesn't seem quite as sharp and asked once more again last night. That's simply a matter of coating, because for such a large display to stay upright without reflecting the sun or anything else, it requires a specific type of specialized coating that manages light effectively and maintains visibility. Coating, and it's on there, and it ensures that from certain angles the display isn't quite as sharp. It's still not particularly nice, but much better than if the entire situation were permanently mirrored, creating a distorted view. It's really quick, but we'll examine it thoroughly in detail because it works here now too. Back then the internet didn't work. Then there's the passenger display. Let's take a look at that while we're driving. I like the seating position. I like this ambient light strip, which also has a function similar to the ID light in Volkswagen. And these sporty seats here in the S-Line, they look really good too. Unfortunately, we can't show you the glass roof here yet. There is supposed to be one, however, the test vehicles on site are only equipped with the full roof. Nevertheless, I find the interior quite successful even in the back. The doors are narrow, the bench seat is wider, and as typical for Audi, quite long. This makes the distance between the front seats and the rear row seem rather short. But he really isn't, because you've got a nice long contact surface. You do benefit somewhat from the longer wheelbase and the larger exterior dimensions compared to the Q4. It's not much more space, so no need to exaggerate here, but you can still tell clearly it's a step above the rest with a difference. ISOFIX is available on the outer seats and on the front passenger seat, and in my opinion, the center tunnel is not great here, because although there is now the 3rd climate control unit and seat heating, there's also USB-C below. That never really works so well. I didn't like it in the Q4 either. And one more thing, cup holder here, very classy with an extra decorative stitch. You can fold the back seats, we haven't discussed that yet, in a 40-20-40 split. There's ambient lighting with the optional sound system, and the choice of materials is excellent. Additionally, the design boosts comfort, making every drive enjoyable for passengers. So Audi's doing a lot right there, and at the back, apart from the climate control, there's no piano black. And that brings us to the driving impression, and in my opinion, that's where the most has changed. Sure, the car is very new, the tech is very new, but they really fine-tuned it here. For one, the Q6 e-tron is now the first Audi model that can do one-pedal driving. Means I switch to B mode down here and then the car regenerates until it comes to a stop. And that is very, very pleasant, especially in urban environments. I personally like that. The car does this with a type of brake blending. This means the brakes are also used so that when not enough energy recuperation can be utilized, the brakes will naturally come into play to ensure smooth deceleration, so that you always have the same driving feel, ensuring a smooth experience. Otherwise, you can use the Audi recuperation, which operates automatically, maintaining efficiency. Or depending on the situation, you can use the paddles here to do it again. Adjust. On the highway, you notice the tuning of the air suspension more clearly. For instance, you can now easily switch to dynamic mode here, which will significantly enhance the car's overall traction and grip capabilities on the road. I personally find it significantly more comfortable, particularly when you then drive on these winding highways in Spain. It's definitely not like in Germany, where you can simply drive straight for miles. Here, it's more like you often have short, tight, and tricky corner combinations that challenge your driving skills. And that's already quite comparable to some really well-developed country roads we have here in Germany. Of course, it's definitely more enjoyable in dynamic mode. I don't necessarily need full power from dynamic mode all the time in the vehicle, but knowing that I can just step on it in the curve and it won't push me out gives me great confidence and makes the driving experience more thrilling and exhilarating. That is really nice. And the car handles even better on the road, improving performance on the road. Plus, there's a well-coordinated assistance package. I think it's pretty cool that Audi now, like Kia or Hyundai, offers the option to use just the lane keeping assist feature if you want. I can click the upper button here and the vehicle stays in its lane, but I can still accelerate manually. If I activate the lower switch as well, I get this classic pilot, where adaptive cruise control and the lane keeping assistant combine into one cohesive system for improved safety and comfort. If I don't want the Sprite Assistant right now, I can quickly remove it from above. And here you benefit tremendously from the AR head-up. It's noticeably higher quality and significantly better compared to what the Audi Q4 offered on the MEB platform. It truly enhances overall driving. This is even more refined in the Q6 model. There are a few almost gamified elements and engaging features. I have like a kind of radar which I constantly look ahead at, showing me other road users, but I still have the line right behind the car and can adjust the distance. And I also get warnings displayed when I, for example, leave the lane. Additionally, there are the navigation infos, arrows, or in urban areas, for example, the roundabouts and many other things one needs to navigate through efficiently. I find it very, very pleasant and it makes driving easier. And in addition, there is a very, very nice assistant view here on the display. And if I switch through this view, I can also display it in full clear size on the screen. But I find this small view really cool, with the assistant in the middle or navigation on each side. Consumption values. And after driving, we of course need to talk about charging. But first, let's charge. Arrived earlier with 9% here at the charging station, in the optimal temperature range with preconditioning to here. We managed to charge from 9 to 80% in just 21 minutes, 6 seconds, an impressive feat considering our previous attempts. That suggests you can indeed go from 10 to 80 in under 21 minutes, and that's quite an impressive feat. Because after just 10 minutes, you've added 42 kilowatt hours and it's still charging at over 200 kilobytes, and that doesn't drop. Somehow too fast, but pretty linear, and it was impressive to see that directly. It was quite impressive that both colleagues from Audi were there to watch. For one, to see what the car does, but also just to see for myself how fast it really goes, and it did. In the vicinity here of the driving event, this was the only 350 kilowatt station that actually delivered the charging power, and we managed to do it and could show it to you here in the video. Meaning, if you're traveling by car, then you can plan for charging stops of 21 minutes. I think there's something. Now onto the software. And what haven't we already complained about with the Q8 or the Q4? That the Audi system seems to be old is not here anymore. Whether it still needs to be integrated here and just smaller is debatable, but I think it's super cool how it's done here. You can swipe in from the left for concise data quickly, which makes everything smoother and more enjoyable in every situation. But that's not all, because there's also always a home button, which takes you to this app structure. You can also adjust them. Simply select the content here and then, for example, traditionally place a clock behind it. Moreover, various display options are available, each suited to needs. And for those who want more, you can always click here in the apps. There are currently the Audi ones, or you just use the store available. And here you can install additional apps, and these are all the ones we already know from vehicles that are based on Android Automotive, because there are simply Android apps here. That is super, super cool because it simplifies everything. Installed apps can then be found in this app section, So not just the ones on the vehicle, but also the ones you've added. For example, I can now simply enter Jonas on YouTube here and then watch the latest video during the charging break. It's just super comfy in the car on the big display. But for those who find YouTube not enough, he's able to switch to using the Vivaldi browser. So let's exit here again. Since it's a regular browser, you can use the normal interface to go to Amazon Prime or Disney Plus and simply continue watching your favorite series directly in the comfort of your own car as you travel around, or maybe just while you wait. The climate control is always here in this bar or menu, which you can explore with various settings, letting you easily customize the environment to find the perfect balance for comfort. But I also think that overall, for instance, the vehicle's configuration, not just the display, but the vehicle itself, is really good. You can also set the different exterior light signatures via the app. And of course, what naturally can't be missed is our comprehensive charger route planner review. So once from here, near Bilbao, navigate all the way to the far north of Germany to Hamburg. Let's just see how fast that goes. In Q4, it took too long for me recently when we had the new model generation in the test. And let's see precisely how long the Audi takes now. It's currently telling me that I need to drive 17 and 24 kilometers. Not arrived just yet. And now comes the enhanced e-tron route planner, which now accurately calculates the best route accordingly. And let's see, we have it completely and fully calculated already. And that was very quick, right? Now you get all the charging stops here, and there are quite a few of them along this route. The next one is already available right now for purchase. I see I'm charging from 17 to 68% in just 16 minutes. Moreover, I can clearly see here as well the different types of charging stations that are available. And then you can also very easily display it right here for the others. Moreover, as you can see, I always arrive with 10% left, and that's because I've set it up the way I prefer to arrive. Not something new in the Audi world, but I'll show you here, indicating in percentages how much you actually want to arrive at the charging station and at the destination. Set Audi charging as a preference. Then if I click here now, it recalculates. That happens pretty quickly. And then I am suddenly getting here within just a few seconds. I have a few moments to remember because of the length of the route. That's quite a difference. Whether I drive from Munich to Hamburg or from here, will I get the new displays? Now I see a charging park here, basically the same one we just had. And then it continues and I get my 5% on exactly 60% right here. And upon arriving at the destination, I can see it up there clearly. I have another half left. I think it's very, very well done. It works reliably and well. And you just saw everything summarized right here. Even Ionity is highlighted separately. Sure, in this charging network, it's done that way, but I find it quite nice. And you can clearly see here now, honestly, that the map runs incredibly smoothly on this system. When loaded, it's no longer like it used to be, but everything here is just as you'd hoped, with every detail considered and realized. And as many people often discuss when it comes to this kind of topic, but it's not at all quite like a Tesla. Here it is the case now, and I think it's well done personally. And then all that's left is the extra display, specifically the passenger display here. It works the same as the main display, just a bit smaller in size to fit more easily. And I'll show it to you here in my hand so you can see it. All the applications you installed on the main display are shown here too. Furthermore, you can also, for example, display the phone right here on the table for everyone to see. So far, so good. Having a display with multifunctional features isn't anything special in itself. What the display can do though is that I can see something here, but if I tilt my head, I see nothing anymore. This means Rainer, who's sitting in the driver's seat, can't see what I'm doing here, and because of that, I'm allowed to watch YouTube videos while we're driving down the road. So just sit back and enjoy watching the latest YouNow YouTube video here while driving, even with full sound on. Don't tell anyone, but in the tunnel, you can very, very faintly see a shadow from the left, but there's absolutely no way you could make anything out or think that the driver can see this. And I think it's super cool. So driving here, listening to this, it's just the question of how much the driver enjoys it when the passenger consumes something and he only gets to listen. But I actually think it's a really clever idea, especially since the main display is tilted in a way that the passenger can't really see it. That's why I think it's pretty cool to have an event there. And then there's only one point left to address regarding the software. What's new with the app? Basically, there's practically nothing new. That means you can definitely still use the phone to lock and unlock the car. You can precondition it and also use other basic yet essential functions. But the digital key will definitely be added in just a few weeks. I personally love using it with our Kia, just being able to lock and unlock the car with my phone or smartwatch. And that without pressing an extra button, but as if you had the key in your pocket. And that goes then onto the vehicles. According to the Audi configurator, it's already ready for it and will be delivered in the next few weeks. I genuinely believe it's really good and hope it comes to other models as well because it makes it easier to be on the road with the car, offering better convenience and overall experience. From myself, that's it for the Q6. I had plenty of fun showing you this car here. I'm super excited for your feedback. The previous videos on the topic were really good and you guys liked them a lot. Now we'll see if it was interesting enough for you to watch how it drives. How many of you click on order? I'm thrilled that we successfully managed the charging performance and that the car delivered just as we had anticipated it would. And if you don't want to miss us driving the SQ6 hopefully very soon, make sure to subscribe to the channel down here. And up here we show you the static world premiere with all the details about the vehicle.